Good evening, gamers. So, contest is over now, and boy do I have some thoughts. I have a lot to go over with the expansion, and I am still working on that video right now. I'll talk about the raid there, but this video is specifically about the contest experience. So, the elephant in the room is, of course, the damage checks. These bosses on contest were tankier than anything we have ever seen in the game. There have been discussions about damage or boss health being bugged in some way, but Bungie has confirmed that the actual damage being done is correct. A lot of people, myself included, doubted that any QA team at Bungie could have cleared this contest difficulty as it is. That assumption was only partially correct. One of Bungie's QA testers for the raid answered some questions on Twitter and confirmed that they did have a QA team clear contest, but they mentioned that Grand Overture was very common. That gun was disabled for contest due to a bug they had found, so if a staple damage weapon used very commonly in testing was disabled, that's a pretty big difference between the testing clears and the actual contest raid. But Grand Overture being disabled was ultimately not the problem at all. It was just indicative of an overall lack of a broad perspective when it comes to contest balance decisions. If only a few weapons were even possible to clear the raid with, the issue isn't those weapons or loadouts, it's how the raid is balanced around them. Now here's where we're going to start getting into opinion territory, so just keep in mind that it's okay to have a different opinion, but I'm going to explain mine and why I think this contest raid was the worst contest experience yet by a long shot. Let's start by talking about Bungie's QA team and how I think they did a fantastic job. I do applaud Bungie for bringing on world's first raiders from previous contest raids, because for years people have complained to Bungie, do you guys even have anyone good at the game working for you? Or things like, clearly Bungie just favors the other classes and hates mine. Knowing Bungie has a well-rounded and highly skilled set of players on their QA team does a lot for me as a prospective player towards feeling secure and knowing that the game is tested by people who know their stuff in and out. However, that does bring up one issue. When you bring on talent like that for QA and test everything with them, you need to understand the perspective shift that must happen. You're no longer testing with average Joes or even just fantastic players, you are testing with players at the very, very top of the skill ceiling. That is a great asset for Bungie, and I am glad that's the case, but it cannot be balanced around. You cannot balance contest around world's first racers. I suppose you actually could, and that's clearly what happened here. If Bungie comes out and states that the level of challenge was intentional and they want to do that for all contest raids going forward, I would think, okay, well that's what Bungie wants, so sure, go for it. The problem is, I and many others would choose not to participate. And is that what you want, Bungie? For the good and even great players to know they're not going to have a chance of clearing if they don't play at the very top level of skill with min-max loadouts and metagaming strats? If that's what Bungie wants, sure, I don't like it, but okay. This leads me to the next problem I had with the contest experience, and this is what really frustrated me the most. I actually have no reason to believe this experience is what Bungie wanted. If it was, we are in much more trouble with raid design than I'm imagining, but I'm not doom posting about that yet. I will give them the benefit of the doubt due to their recent posts going over feedback and directly acknowledging the community's concerns, and I love the raid on normal mode. But we really do need clarification on contest, and not having it for years now after multiple contest raid debacles, I can't just ignore that we are missing vital information for the health of the contest experience going forward. So while we're talking about Bungie's intent, let's talk about Ride of the Nine real quick. That was a great, well-balanced challenge, and I loved all the changes they brought to those dungeons. I think contest raids should be harder than that, but Ride of the Nine has one thing that I firmly believe should have been kept around for Desert Perpetual's contest mode. As you can probably guess by now, I'm going to bring up Not Swap and loadout swapping in general. Not Swap heavily disincentivizes loadout swapping by draining all of your ability energy if you change exotics or subclasses mid-encounter. If that modifier was on during contest and nothing else was changed, I don't think this contest would have been mathematically possible. So with the most recently released hardest content having it, to then the next pinnacle activity being this contest not having it, I have to wonder why. My answer lies not in their QA team being too good or whatever, but the decision by someone at Bungie to lean into the loadout swapping. As stated by a player on their QA team, they did what they thought players would do. And they were right. Players did and will loadout swap constantly if they want to be world's first. I have no problem with that. But why on earth would that be what the experienced is balanced around just to get a clear? Those teams going for first place or high placements can and should use every single thing at their disposal to clear the raid first, which is totally fine and expected. That just cannot be what you ask every single team to do if they want to have a chance at clearing at all within 48 hours. Oh yeah, and who could forget console players? Well, apparently Bungie, which really makes me sad, even as a PC-only player myself. Console players had an even harder time clearing contests, even if they had the skill, loadouts, and did try to do the loadout swaps and everything. If anyone on your team had an old generation console like a PS4, it likely would not have been possible at all due to the menu load times and other bugs preventing them from even playing the game normally. A lot of gear was crashing PS4 players' systems. How are they meant to compete with that? I know a few teams did clear contest. I believe it was a PS5 group. I'm sure they did amazing, clearly. But the fact that they also had to loadout swap and they were just disadvantaged anyways meant they had no chance at a world's first clear, even if their skill was up to par. When you balance around this kind of difficulty, you end up with players thinking things like, if you want a chance at harder content, you need to play on a specific platform that reduces UI load times, and you need multiple loadouts ready to swap during phases. And Bungie had to inflate health and remove cover to account for swapping, so if you're not prepped, you shouldn't participate at all. If that sounds familiar, that's because that is exactly what happened, and is also a direct quote from community manager DMG. I know he doesn't make every decision, and in no way do I want anyone thinking I'm taking a shot at him here, because he is a gem of a person and this community does not deserve a representative as good as him, really. But I bring it up because he clearly does reflect Bungie's general philosophy in that they want to retain challenge while also making it accessible to as many people as is reasonable. No contest should ever be as easy as Root of Nightmares was, but it also shouldn't be nearly as hard as Desert Perpetual was. A lot of hardcore raiders think roughly Vow or reprised Crota were perfect in difficulty, and Bungie should balance around that going forward. While I firmly agree with that, I wouldn't be upset if Bungie decided to go one way or the other, either way too easy or way too hard. Whatever direction Bungie decides to take contest from here, I will respect. But they need to do two things if they want consistent engagement with contest activities. They need to state exactly what their goals are in terms of difficulty, and they need to make it consistent. I don't want Contest Ron or DP to be talked about differently. Obviously they have to be now because they are barely comparable in challenge intensity. I don't want to have to explain to someone that all raids have contest difficulty for the first 48 hours, but some of them are stupid easy and some of them are unrealistically difficult and some are a good challenge. We just won't know until we prepare for the worst, and if you're not ready for the worst, then you have no chance and might as well not participate. I do not want to think like this, Bungie. We need consistency, we need communication, and we've needed it since Lightfall. Please, if anyone at Bungie is listening to this, or if anybody has a way to get Bungie to listen to this, pass the feedback along. I want to love contest and be hyped for every new release, but with the amount of inconsistency in difficulty, inconsistency in balance philosophy, and the inconsistency in the enforcement of pinnacle challenge modifiers such as not swap, and of course, I never mentioned the truly game-ruining bugs that very likely caused some teams to not get a clear when they otherwise would have. If this is how contest is going to be going forward, then I just won't participate. And, the thought of that makes me really sad, because Contest, when it's good, is the best FPS experience available, in my opinion. I think it is truly special, truly fantastic. No other game does it like that. That's the reason we play this game, because nothing can top Destiny at its own game. Nothing does it like Destiny. Nobody does it like Bungie, and that means nobody can ruin it like Bungie. And I don't want to see this go the route of complete inaccessibility for people who, like me, are pretty good at the game. Like, I'm pretty damn good. And so was my Contest team. But we saw what was required, and we just realized that's not what we want to do. I believe going in this direction would be a huge detriment to the Contest experience and to, honestly, Destiny as a whole. Ever since its integration into the game, there really hasn't been anything more exciting than contest prepping. For these hardcore players like myself, it is so much fun to speculate on how hard the new raid's gonna be and, expect extreme difficulty, but this is just way too much. And it's not something I can reasonably tell someone, hey, get excited for this, you should grind for this, let me help you, maybe you could even be on our team if you really got good and you got your gear up, I would love to help people, I would love to encourage people, but I really can't do that in good faith if this is how the contest is going to be going forward. And that really does make me sad. Now, congratulations are in order for anyone who got through that contest raid legitimately. And congratulations to Bungie for releasing a fantastic raid. Don't let the negative talk about contests spoil the normal raiding experience for you. This raid on normal mode is fantastic, and I think this is a huge step up in challenge from some previous raids. I'll have my thoughts out on the raid and the expansion as a whole very soon, so I hope this video sparked some thoughts and gave you another perspective to consider in the meantime. I appreciate everyone watching this far for being here, and I hope I'll see you next time.